There's a decision you probably made recently without thinking twice. It didn't feel risky. It didn't feel irresponsible. It didn't even feel like a decision. You just went along with it. Signed the lease, accepted the payment plan, upgraded because it fit the budget. Nothing bad happened. Your life didn't fall apart. Your bank account didn't scream at you. And that's exactly why it matters. Because the most dangerous financial decisions aren't the obvious mistakes. They're the quiet, reasonable ones that feel safe in the moment and permanent later. Most people believe their future gets locked in by failure, a bad investment, a missed opportunity, a market crash at the wrong time. That story is comforting. It implies that if nothing dramatic goes wrong, everything will work out. But the truth is more subtle and more uncomfortable. Your future is usually locked in by decisions that feel normal, made repeatedly, without ever being questioned. And once those decisions stack, they don't just affect your money. They quietly decide how much freedom you're allowed to have later, how much risk you can take, how easily you can change direction, how trapped or calm you feel when life shifts. By the end of this video, one of two things will happen. Either you'll realize you're far more in control than you thought, or you'll recognize a pattern that's been shaping your future without asking permission. And that's where things get interesting. Core idea 1, the comfort trap. Nobody talks about. At some point in your financial life, things stop being urgent. You're not panicking anymore. You're not checking your account 10 times a day. You're not doing mental math in the grocery store. Your life feels stable. This is the phase people aim for, and it's also where most people stall out. Because when life feels fine, your brain stops optimizing for freedom and starts optimizing for comfort. You stop asking, is this moving me forward? And start asking, does this make life easier right now? You choose the apartment that's closer to work instead of the one that accelerates savings. You keep the car payment because it's manageable. You stay in the job because it's predictable. None of these are bad decisions on their own. That's the trap. Comfort doesn't destroy your future overnight. It slowly hardens your lifestyle. And once your lifestyle hardens, changing direction feels expensive, emotionally, not just financially. Here's a quiet truth most people never articulate. The moment your life becomes comfortable, every improvement requires discomfort. And most people unconsciously decide that comfort is worth protecting. So they protect it. They stop experimenting. They stop taking asymmetric risks. They stop building optionality. Not because they're lazy, because they're human. Let me ask you something. Pause for half a second and answer honestly. If nothing in your financial life changed for the next 5 years, would you feel calm or quietly anxious? That reaction tells you more than any spreadsheet ever could. Most people don't ruin their future. They simply stop expanding it, and once expansion stops, narrowing begins automatically. This is where momentum quietly flips direction, and almost no one notices when it happens. Core idea 2, lifestyle. Inflation isn't about stuff, it's about identity. Lifestyle inflation is usually framed as a spending problem. Too many coffees, too many upgrades, too much treat-yourself energy. That framing misses the real issue. Lifestyle inflation isn't about stuff. It's about identity commitments. Every upgrade you accept isn't just a purchase. It's a statement about the kind of life you now need to maintain. Higher rent doesn't just cost more money, it demands higher income consistency. A nicer car doesn't just look better, it reduces your tolerance for income volatility. Subscriptions, services, conveniences. Each one raises the minimum performance required just to stay afloat. And here's the part people rarely admit. The more you inflate your lifestyle, the less honest you can be with yourself about risk. You tell yourself you're playing it safe, but you've actually made yourself fragile. Because now, disruption isn't inconvenient, it's threatening. This is where people get stuck in jobs they outgrow. Not because the job is terrible, but because leaving feels irresponsible. You don't ask, is this the best long-term move? You ask, can I afford to destabilize my life right now? That's not freedom. That's quiet dependence. Here's an uncomfortable question worth sitting with. If your income dropped by 30% tomorrow, would your lifestyle bend or break? Most people already know the answer. And if it's break, then the problem isn't spending, it's structure. Your life has been built in a way that demands stability, not growth. That's how optionality disappears. Not with a bang, with a shrug. Core idea 3, the hidden risk of playing it safe. We're taught that safety is the goal. Stable job, predictable income, low drama. It sounds mature, responsible, sensible. But here's the paradox. What feels safe in the short term often creates the highest long-term risk. Why? Because safe usually means concentration. One employer, one income stream, one narrow set of skills. When everything depends on one pillar, stability is an illusion. It feels fine until it doesn't. Layoffs don't arrive politely. Industries don't decline gradually. Burnout doesn't ask permission. And when change hits, the people who prioritized comfort are hit the hardest. Meanwhile, the people who looked reckless 5 years ago weren't reckless at all. They were buying leverage, transferable skills, savings that bought time, side systems that reduced dependency. They weren't chasing excitement. They were quietly lowering the cost of failure. Here's the question that cuts through all the noise. If your primary income vanished tomorrow, how many good options would you have? Not desperate ones, not panic moves, actual choices. That number reflects decisions you've already made. And most of those decisions didn't feel important at the time. They were just easy. Core idea 4, the invisible contracts you're already signed into. Every financial decision signs a contract, not with a bank, with your future behavior. A car payment is a contract to stay employable. High fixed expenses are contracts to avoid risk. A lifestyle built on steady income is a contract to tolerate stress. Again, none of this is evil, but contracts limit movement, and most people never read the fine print. Here's the line most people don't want to hear. You don't need to make a single bad decision to limit your future. You just need to consistently prioritize short-term ease over long-term control. That's it. No disaster. No collapse. Just narrowing. If this feels uncomfortably accurate, good. That discomfort is awareness kicking in. And awareness is the only thing that breaks patterns. Which brings us to the shift. Let's reframe what wealth actually is. Wealth isn't about being rich. It's about being hard to trap. The calm people around money aren't calmer because they earn more. They're calmer because their lives are built with slack. They built buffers before upgrades. They bought time before stuff. They valued control over appearance. And over time, that calm compounds. Here's what actually changes your trajectory. Not extreme frugality, not constant hustling, not financial obsession, but designing your life around optionality. Savings that buy thinking time, structures that tolerate uncertainty, systems that reduce dependency on any single outcome. When you stop asking, "Can I afford this?" and start asking, "What does this commit me to?" everything changes. You move slower, but smarter. You feel calmer, but more deliberate. You stop reacting and start designing. And here's the best part. You don't need to blow up your life to regain control. Small structural decisions, made consistently, quietly reopen your future. Less fixed cost, more flexibility, more margin. The future doesn't get decided by one dramatic move. It gets locked in or unlocked by patterns. And patterns can be changed. If this video made you slightly uncomfortable, that's a good sign. It means you're starting to see the invisible forces shaping your future. The next step isn't doing more, it's seeing clearly. There's another video on this channel that picks up exactly where this one leaves off, about the hidden cost of responsibility, discipline, and doing everything right. It's called What No One Mentions About Doing Everything Right. That's the natural next step. Not because you need motivation, but because once you see the pattern, you can finally change it. And that's where real control begins.